It's crossover edition. Locked on Sooners, locked on Bama. Another battle out in Tuscaloosa. Let's go ahead and talk about it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It's a Locked On crossover edition of Locked On Sooners and Locked On Bama. And thank you for making both of these shows your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning and subscribing to each show as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. We have John Williams over here from Locked On Sooners, Jimmy Stein from Locked On Bama, and of course, I'm Jay Smith from Locked On Sooners. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to go through each side of the ball and talk about, how what this matchup means for both teams, as well as how we think things can go. Mainly because this is a revenge game for Alabama after last season's upset. So we'll start off with you, Jimmy. We've got Alabama's offense. Talk to us. How you feeling about going into this game?
Well, the offense has been a little bit of a struggle for Alabama recently. They've really had a difficult time running the ball all year long. That has sort of bottomed out against LSU. How about this crazy stat? Alabama's leading or number one back, Jam Miller, he averages, I believe, 3.6 yards per carry, which is terrible. His backup, Daniel Hill, averages 3.6 yards per carry. The third back that plays handful of carries each game, Kevin Riley, he a little better at 3.9 yards per carry, a number that is matched by offensive tackle Caden Proctor with his 4 carries on the season, also averages 3.9 yards a carry. So you're just as effective with Proctor as you are with the 3 primary backs. That's how bad it is. Alabama has to get really creative to create what they would call extensions of the run game. A lot of screens, a lot of east-west throws. They'll use Jeremy Bernard, who's their most gifted offensive player, maybe other than Ty. Jeremy will line up in the backfield. Sometimes they just hand him the ball. Sometimes it's on these jet sweeps. But finding a run game for Alabama has been very difficult. It's sort of amazing that they've been able to get to this point, ranked where they are with their one-loss records, particularly against the schedule that they've played without really having this run game. But Ty Simpson in the past game have saved them, as the offensive line has been pretty good in pass protection. Ty Simpson's been outstanding. The strength of this team is Alabama's depth of playmakers at wide receiver. You went into the season, I think the national perception, or maybe the Sooners' perception, everybody knows Ryan Williams, but Jeremy Bernard has actually proven to be Alabama's most effective wide receiver in 2025. A freshman named Latsier Brooks has been outstanding. You've even got 4th and 5th guys like Isaiah Horton, a Miami transfer, Cole Adams, who returns punts. Rico Scott plays off the bench. This is a deep wide receiver group, and there's playmakers, and Ty Simpson's been getting them the ball. What Oklahoma, I'm sure, wants to do is just remove the very thought that Alabama's going to run the ball in this game, and that might not be hard to do for this Sooners defense, which is outstanding, and it will all be on Ty. I've called Oklahoma the best defense in the league multiple times. I really believe that. And I think Alabama scoring even in the mid-20s is going to be a big ask for this bunch right now.
It's a great offense, though, but that run game is a big question mark. And it's crazy to think that about an Alabama team because they always run the ball well. Like, as long as I've been aware of college football, Alabama generally runs the football very well. They may not throw for big yardage numbers, but they can run the ball. But over the last 5 games, the yardage numbers have been less and less and less. They're averaging just 3.2 yards per carry. They haven't averaged more than 4 yards a carry against a Power 5 opponent all year, which is crazy to me. But like you mentioned, man, Ty Simpson erases all that because he's been incredibly accurate, incredibly deadly with the football in his hands. And as you mentioned, the plethora of wide receivers that they've got at their disposal, it allows them to not be very good running the football. And so that's going to be the big challenge for Oklahoma's defense is, okay, can we take away that weakness and keep Alabama one-dimensional? I think they can. That's been the most effective part of Oklahoma's defense, has been in their front 6 and 7 this year, stopping the run. They're as good as anybody in college football. They're number one or number 2 in the SEC in run defense. Or was that number 2, allowing just 82.4 yards per game and 2.5 yards per carry. So it's a great opportunity for Oklahoma to keep Alabama one-dimensional. But where they've had a little bit of a kink in the armor, so to speak, is in their secondary and in pass coverage. They've been beat by Ole Miss and Tennessee, and Cam Coleman was able to hit them for some big plays in the secondary. But the big difference against Tennessee was they got some turnovers.
Yeah, the challenge. Yeah,
Simpson doesn't turn the ball over, though.
He does.
That's my biggest concern is, can they beat Alabama if Ty Simpson plays like Ty Simpson and doesn't turn the ball over?
And I think to even add to that part is the one thing that most people don't realize, what makes Ty Simpson so effective in this offense is that because he's so good at just distributing the ball, he's very efficient. He gets those third downs. He gets conversions all the time. And it may not be some massively huge play. I mean, he doesn't always get you 300 yards every single game, but he's really close and he's pretty consistent. But it's the ones that matter the most that Ty finds a way to get the ball out. And the offensive line has proven that he's comfortable in it. So he can just sit in that bad boy, relax, have a latte, sit there, read the paper, pop it by, be like, I need to hit this wide receiver over there, and then throw a beautiful dart. That's what he's shown us, is that he's very comfortable in his pocket. Even, the fumbles he's had this season have been from the pocket and getting sacked on the blind side, but overall, he still has so much confidence in him that he doesn't have the yips. He doesn't show any signs of PTSD. He goes out there and he takes his time and he cuts you up. He's a surgeon when it comes to how he's been passing the ball this year.
Yeah, you guys would know this better than anyone else because y'all experienced this firsthand last November. Alabama is scoring fewer points than they did a year ago. Alabama is accumulating fewer yards than they did a year ago. Yet most Alabama fans will tell you this offense feels better than last year's offense. And why is that? Because last year's offense would turn over the ball, which was a huge factor against Oklahoma last year. The Milroe 2 turnovers, one was a pick six, the other I think he threw 3 interceptions actually in the Oklahoma game. Ty's thrown just 1 interception all season long. Also, Milroe had a tendency, it was a very boom or bust offense. Tons of 3 and outs last year. This year, very few 3 and outs, even though they might not score. They might not, rack up a lot of points, but they maintain the ball. They'll make a few first downs before punting, which at least provides their own defense with some field position, to work with. So this year's offense feels more efficient. They don't beat themselves. But admittedly, last year's offense was more explosive. They scored more points. Maybe it was even more fun to watch because of all the big plays. This is not a big play offense. This is more of a chew the clock, use time of possession, short and intermediate passes is what works. The deep ball hasn't worked so far. Alabama working on that quite a bit, though. That'll be one thing to watch this weekend. Alabama has really put in some extra time on that deep ball against LSU last week. They just missed. Just missed. Off by less than a foot on 3 or 4 deep balls. They're going to take their shots against Oklahoma. But, again, I think the kind of the theme is with this offense, short and intermediate, don't hurt yourself, fewer penalties than last year too. They'll make Oklahoma beat you. But as you guys know from watching them all season long, Oklahoma absolutely has the weapons to beat you. They have the weapons to beat anybody.
And that's going to be a really interesting kind of story in this game because Oklahoma a lot of times is more than willing to play bend, don't break defense and let teams pick up a few first downs and keep a drive going. But then once you get to their half of the 50, start to shut some things down. Kind of the Achilles heel for Oklahoma has been the big plays, the big chunk plays down the field in the passing game. If Alabama isn't able to find some of those and they're going to force Ty Simpson to be in some second and long, third and long situations because Alabama's not going to be able to run the ball, it's going to be tough. And he's going to be put in some disadvantaged positions with Oklahoma's pass rush and what Brent Venables wants to do as a blitz or as a defensive coordinator blitzing Ty Simpson. Can he get the ball out quick enough? Will they be able to make some plays after the catch? Because again, that's been maybe the other part of Oklahoma's defense. It's been a bit of a struggle. Ole Miss was able to pick up some big plays after the catch as well. So it's going to be a test and a challenge for Oklahoma's defense. Once again, they've had one like each of the last 3 weeks or last 3 games against Ole Miss and Tennessee, and now with Alabama. Oklahoma wants to get Alabama one-dimensional and then just see if they can hold up on the back end against, again, maybe the most talented wide receiver room in the country.
Yeah.
Speaking of your pass rush, what's the latest health update that you're aware of on your pass rusher, R. Mason?
Oh, so I don't think R. Mason Thomas is. Yeah, he's doing things, and that's all Brent Venables gave us. I don't think he plays in this game. It just feels like after him coming out in the Tennessee game, even with the bye week, it just doesn't feel like he's going to be prepared to play. In which we'll know more so closer to Friday. He's going to be on the list as doubtful, guaranteed. Yeah, so. Yeah, we're going to keep our eyes open on that. Luckily, we've got some solid depth there. Taylor Wine has really emerged. I mean, he's one of our top edges actually this year statistically, which is pretty crazy to even think that he's outdone R. Mason Thomas, even though everyone's focused on R. Mason. But the young guys, you had veteran Marvin Jones Jr. that's also out there, but then you've got the young guys in Daniel Okoye and PJ Adebaware who should be able to show. They've shown something, but we'll see what they look like going forward. Speaking of going forward, let's look at the other side of the ball. That Bama defense going against this Oklahoma offense here on the crossover edition. Locked On Sooners, Locked On Bama. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And once again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners and Locked On Bamas your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the shows. You all made us the #1 sports podcast network in the world, period. We're the best. So let's talk other side of the ball. Oklahoma's offense is a very fascinating study out there. It looked kind of solid going forward, much better than last year in comparison. And then, you had a drop off due to some injuries and weird things that happened. Voodoo, I don't know what it was. It was probably the tortilla presser's fault over there at Chipotle. But then you're going to come back up and you start to see a little bit more of a progression here, especially in that Tennessee game. John, how are you feeling about this Oklahoma offense going up against Bama defense?
To me, it comes down to one thing. Will Ben Arbuckle be willing to just run the ball and run it and run it and run it again? And when he's not sure what to do, just run the ball. Because that's been the best part of Oklahoma's offense since the South Carolina game. They had a 100-yard rusher in Torrey Blaylock in that win. And then over the last 2 games against Ole Miss and against Tennessee, Xavier Robinson has been the 100-yard rusher. He had a great day against Alabama last year, running for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, being the catalyst for that upset win on the offensive side of the ball. Lean into that. He posted on social media, "I'm ready." Simple as that. Lean into Xavier Robinson as the focal point of your offense. I know John Mateer was the big transfer portal addition, the big splash, the big money get. I know that everybody wants John Mateer to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy. Just go win football games. And the best path to victory for Oklahoma to win this football game is to run the dang ball. Keep Ty Simpson in the offense on the sideline. Go after an Alabama defense that doesn't stop the run very well and can be had. Just run the ball. Feed X, because X going to give it to you.
Yeah, Jimmy, I know with this Alabama defense, you may not have a Jahai Campbell there like you're used to having out there, but that secondary's been pretty ridiculous this year. I've seen the true freshman, Jean Lee, take the starting job from a Damani Jackson, a player of Damani Jackson's caliber. He walked in there and took his locker and said, "Nope, that's mine." He took his lunch and said, "I'm going to take this starting spot." And he's been good at 6'5"-ish. It's a ridiculously huge corner as a true freshman playing. So I know the secondary is the strongest. I know the front seven isn't the standard that Bama is used to, but you still got some dudes out there. What are we seeing with this Bama defense?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Obviously, they got off to a really rough start against Florida State, but since that time, I think they've built and built and built a resume that now stands up against anybody in the league except perhaps Oklahoma. Again, like I said, I think these are the two best defenses in the league. As to Dijon Lee at cornerback, he's been unbelievable. I think the highest compliment you can give a defender at Alabama is he's very reminiscent of Saban defenders. I mean, the Saban freaks that he reloaded the defense with year after year during his 17-year run. Dijon Lee looks like one of those guys. I mean, he's, his length is ridiculous. He beat out a really good player. He hasn't been picked on. Most true freshman corners, the opposing offenses, Arbuckle and those guys, they see a freshman corner and they're like, hey, go get that guy. That hasn't really happened at Alabama. And Dijon now, I think he'll be making at least this will probably be his fifth start in a row. Very good player. As far as Alabama's run defense, it's been very odd when you look at the numbers. They're very good snap to snap. They don't give up a lot, but then they give up a chunk play, like 6 run plays in a row. They don't give up anything at all, and they look really good, and then there goes the chunk play. That's what they've given up. No one's gashed Alabama since that Florida State game. No one's gashed them play after play, 5 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards. You don't see that. What you see is 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, 48 yards. You've seen some of that. I won't be surprised at all if Oklahoma busts a couple, whether they're home runs that end in points. We'll see. But I won't be surprised at all to see Oklahoma bust a couple of runs. I'll be a little surprised if Alabama gives up a ton of yards on the ground. Like I said, it will come in chunks, probably 2 plays, probably 3 plays, but it'll add up. And they held LSU to 56 yards last week. LSU doesn't run the ball quite as well as Oklahoma, but y'all seem to be running the ball better lately. Seems to be more of a concerted effort, which leads me to my question for you two guys. I'm fascinated with, I think all Alabama fans are. There's a perception of the Oklahoma offense that it was one thing, and then Mateer hurt his hand, and then once Mateer's came back, it's been something else, that it hasn't been the same, or it's been least effective. That's the perception from the outside. Is that how y'all see it from the inside?
Yes. It's been less effective because John Mateer hasn't been as effective as he was prior to the injury.
Yeah, and I'm kind of to add to that. Well, real quick though. I feel like pulling a mask off. I feel like when you see Alabama, you see Oklahoma too. When it comes to the defense giving up big plays, that's kind of like how our defense has played all year. We give up a massive run, and then we play really good defense on the run game outside of that. But go back to that, Joe.
Yeah, and so and the but is, I think John Mateer realized in that Texas loss, hey, I've got a really good defense on the other side. I don't have to do everything. And Ben Arbuckle is realizing we've got a promising run game. I'm not going to say it's good yet, but it's promising and it's developing and it's getting better week over week. We don't have to ask John Mateer to do everything for us. In the Texas game, in the first half, running backs accounted for just 6 carries. John Mateer himself accounted for 25 plays where he either threw a pass, ran the ball, or was sacked. That's imbalance, and that's not complementary football within your offense. So I think Ben Arbuckle is evolving a little bit, not putting everything on John Mateer. John Mateer is evolving himself, realizing, hey, this isn't Washington State. I've got an elite defense on the other side of the ball. Let's just play football. Let's play complementary football. If I don't give it away, and if I get enough points, we can win football games. And that's really all it comes down to. Is it's not about Heisman's. It's not about first team all SEC selections. It's about winning football games. And John Mateer has done a better job managing the football game from the South Carolina game to the Texas game, or not the Texas game, but the Ole Miss game and the Tennessee game. Just missed a few throws at the end of the Ole Miss game, but he hits a few of those throws against Tennessee in the second half, and they win that game. So it's all on the table for Oklahoma. John Mateer just has to play within the confines of the game and not try to do too much.
And to kind of add to that too, Brent Venables mentioned this before the Tennessee game that John Mateer's been dealing with a knee deal. He just said a knee deal. So to me, it seems like it was a knee sprain because going up against it was a Michigan game. He started to look slow up, but the offense kept churning. And it was fine. The Auburn game, it looked like it took him a while before he got going, and then he had the final drive to take the lead. That's where I was like, there's something wrong with John Mateer, and I don't know what. But then you had the thumb surgery, which that became the focal point for everybody. But as you mentioned, Jimmy, yeah, we kind of did another thing too that a lot of people really didn't pay attention to or realize. We did some more tweaks on the offensive line. So we've been dealing with, of course, injuries to some of our veterans on the line. So they had to put a true freshman out there, Ryan Fogier, on the right tackle spot. And he's a lot meaner than Derek Simmons, who was the starter at the time. He's more of a run blocker rather than a passer. They even had him playing right guard because he's a bigger dude. So they're like, yeah, you'd probably be great as a guard. You're SEC guard size and skill set. You're just not ready for the pass pro when it comes to being a tackle. Well, they threw him out there at right tackle. They put in another redshirt freshman, Eddie Pierre-Louis, at guard, and you started seeing some really nasty pulls. You start seeing dudes get ran over, and you're like, oh, you guys actually like to hit people, so let's go ahead and do that. And so that's kind of where you're starting to see the run game evolve more as of the last few games, because those two guys have been really playing more on the line, and the line's getting a little bit healthier across the board. So 2 freshman tackles, which is kind of crazy, a redshirt freshman guard, and then you got a junior and a senior, redshirt senior, and the rest of the interior. So that's actually where you're starting to see that improvement. But yeah, we have kind of shifted, and as John mentioned, John Mateer himself was, learning that, okay, let me pull back, play in the confines of the offense, and we'll be all right.
It seems like our offensive lines are also in one more similarity. It seems like the offensive lines at both Alabama and Oklahoma, not great, but also not terrible. Fairly good. Alabama's is much better at pass protection than the run blocking. Ty Simpson usually operates from a clean pocket, only gave up 1 sack against LSU last week. I think that's been pretty typical lately. Doesn't get pressured too much. I think Oklahoma, just similar in that way, a good offensive line. Not great, not terrible.
Consistent. And that's actually the key thing. And as long as your quarterback gets rid of the ball and doesn't run into the back of somebody, probably won't give up a sack or a tackle for loss. Well, we got to get to it. We got I want to talk about key players as well as final predictions here on the crossover edition of Locked On Sooners and Locked On Bama.
When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. You need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service.
And once again, thank you for making Locked On Bama and Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there, and thank you for making us the #1 podcast network in the world. So, Jimmy, I want to ask you, give us a key player that Sooner fans should keep their eyes out for on the offensive side and the defensive side. And then, John, you do the same.
This is going to be too big. This would be just too obvious to go Ty Simpson. I think that's just a boring answer, so I'm just going to stay away from that. But how about a name that's probably a little familiar to Oklahoma fans? Ryan Williams. He's had an odd year where there's been some injuries. I think he had a little hamstring thing. He's been kind of nicked up here and there, had a concussion, had to miss some time. He was on the injury report going into LSU, even off a bye week. So he's been kind of banged up and just hasn't had a noisy second season. We keep thinking that there's going to be at least a breakout game to remind everyone of how gifted the kid truly is. So I'll go Ryan Williams. I would say finally has a big game. He's had a couple of games earlier this year, like against Wisconsin, for instance. He put up some good numbers. But I like Ryan Williams to have a 100-yard type game, even against this great Oklahoma defense. And defensively for Alabama, the inside linebacking crew has been playing extremely well as a group. There's 3 of them. They split time. Sometimes you see packages with all 3 of them out there. But the leader there is Deontae Lawson. And I like him having a big day, particularly with Oklahoma's new concerted effort to run the ball. Deontae Lawson being Alabama's primary linebacker against the run. So I'll go Ryan Williams on offense and Deontae Lawson on defense.
Yeah, it's going to be some of those interesting matchups within the game where how Oklahoma contains Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard and that Alabama wide receiver core is going to be a big factor in this one. And to me, true freshman Courtland Guillory, that's a name to watch. He's had some up and down games. Cam Coleman did Cam Coleman things against him back earlier in the season. Again, true freshman cornerback playing against a guy who's going to be a top 5 draft pick in the NFL maybe one day. He's going to have another big test this week. A few weeks ago against Ole Miss, was targeted 8 times, allowed just 2 catches. Against Tennessee, targeted 7 times, allowed 4 catches. Solid work. He's been doing really good stuff in coverage, has to have a big game in this one against whoever he gets matched up against. And I'm sure he's going to get matched up against a variety of wide receivers, and Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb are going to try and attack him. If he can win his battles more often than not, that's going to bode well for Oklahoma's defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, it's the interior. If Oklahoma's interior, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Jake Mikla, and Fabechi Wiwu can get some push, get to the second level, and attack that linebacker core that you're talking about, seal those guys off for Xavier Robinson to get some nice runs. He doesn't have to get a chunk every time he runs it, but if he can get 3, 4, 6 on a regular basis, that sets the tone for Oklahoma's offense and controls time of possession and just wears down that Alabama defense just one little play at a time to where third quarter, fourth quarter, hopefully you can take the game over and win in a big environment where you're going to be a big underdog.
Yeah, I know that playing there in Bryant-Denny is tough. That's a very tough place. And how many losses have Bama had there in the last 10 years, Jimmy? I know you.
It's the current active longest home win streak. I know. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I think there's only been a total of about 3 home losses since 2015. Gosh, so not many.
Yeah. I know we were up there in one of the national records since 2000 of having one of the higher win percentage at home, but at the same time we lost to Ole Miss this year, so that's a toughie. But no, I know it's a challenging place, and I'm pretty excited to get out there. I'm going to go. I'll be in Birmingham. I'm flying to Birmingham from here and driving over there to Tuscaloosa. So I'm pretty excited to see and get back into Bryant-Denny. It'll be my second trip. I actually went to the third Saturday in October a few years ago. That was awesome. When Joe Milton was the quarterback, it was great because Alabama just destroyed that boy in the second half. So I just hope that we don't see that for ourselves. I'm hoping it's a very competitive game. So, the key player is the key. I'm curious though. This Justin Jefferson kid, the transfer from Memphis. How did you get him to transfer from the Minnesota Vikings back down into college football? I'm really curious about that.
He does have a good name, doesn't he? You know what's kind of funny? I'm sure Corey Burton and Locked on Vandy doesn't like this very much. Justin Jefferson is only eligible because of the Diego Pavia ruling.
Yep.
I mean, Justin Jefferson was done. He was a fourth year player. Actually started his career at junior college, finished up at Alabama, but because of his time at junior college was given the additional Pavia year, and then who stripped Diego Pavia inside the 10-yard line to help turn that game for Alabama? Justin Jefferson, only on the field because of Pavia's courtroom action. So Justin Jefferson's been playing really well. The third inside linebacker, Nikai Hill-Green, per PFF, however much stock you want to put in that, it's up to y'all. But per PFF, Nikai Hill-Green, highest graded linebacker in the country last week against LSU. He's really kind of the third guy there, along with Deontae Lawson, who's kind of considered the leader of that inside linebacker group. So it is a strong trio that Alabama's got inside there.
Yeah, I watched a lot of him at Colorado. He was actually really good.
He was all Big 12
for the Buffs in the Big 12.
He's a sixth-year guy. Alabama's got some veteran dudes there. Justin Jefferson, 5th year. Deontae Lawson, 5th year. Nikai Hill-Green, 6th year.
Yep. That's crazy. John, score prediction. We got to give it.
Gosh, man.
I know.
Let me just say I don't feel great about this. And I've gone back and forth on it for the last week and a half because we had a bye week last week. So we've had a lot of time to just marinate with this one and think about it. and I'm probably going to overthink it, and I'm probably going to change my mind several more times, but let's get it on the record. I want to say Oklahoma 26, Alabama 24. This is going to be one of those rare home losses for the Crimson Tide, and it's going to be a big field goal game again for Tate Sandell. Oklahoma's going to do just enough offensively. I don't think they get a defensive touchdown this year like they did last year, but I do think that they get a turnover, and that helps get them some solid field position to get just enough points to win this game.
Jimmy, what are you thinking?
Yeah, not really too different. I think it's going to be a full 4-quarter game. No one's leaving early here. I mean, it is going to be 60 minutes, probably decided at the end. I see even less scoring, although the game just as close. I'm going to go with Alabama. If it's close at the end, Alabama's 2-minute offense has been very, very good. They haven't had to use it at the end of games, but I believe Alabama has scored 7 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes of the first half, almost all with a 2-minute offense type plan. Ty's been very effective in that. So if it does come down to the very end, Alabama on offense has been very effective in the 2-minute, and Alabama's red zone defense has been just spectacular. So I'll take Alabama to win it at the very end, but I have it like 17-14. I don't think there'll be a lot of points. I think these are the 2 best defenses in the SEC, which is pretty much telling everyone it's the 2 best defenses in the country.
Oh, no, I 100% agree with you there. I'm in the same boat. I'm low scoring. I'm thinking 23-21. Someone kicks a game-winning field goal. I have been tossing it up back and forth all week. I'm going to go ahead and go with my Sooners with a game winner at the end. But I think that, this, like you said, Jimmy, and just like you said, John, as well, it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be a defensive battle.
I just think Oklahoma needs it more. Alabama can afford to lose it and still make the playoffs.
That's true.
Oklahoma,
do y'all think even with your schedule, 9-3 won't do it? Because your schedule is absurd.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when the college football playoff committee actually does it.
I was going to say yes to you, Jimmy, on that, but the problem is neither Missouri or LSU will be ranked when we play them at the end of the season.
Yeah,
that to me, I think that kind of kills the gauntlet of our schedule. It kills the vibes. It's kind of
absurd when you think about it, because it's not like Missouri and LSU weren't really good teams on the day you played them. I think that's one thing the committee or the public loses sight of. It's, they'll, like, for instance, like a Penn State, this weekend. Well, Indiana struggled beating a bad Penn State team. No, they're not. When Penn State shows up to play, they got dudes. And that's a tough place to play. Missouri and LSU were tough to beat on the day Oklahoma beat them. I don't care where they're ranked.
That's a fair point.
And they just got to take care of business. But for me, it's like Oklahoma's got to come in, play desperate. And they've been pretty good on the road under Brent Venables. So I don't know. This Sooner Magic, November's been a special month for Oklahoma in the past. We're going with it again.
Yeah. We're gonna pray for some Sooner Magic, because we could use that field goal to help us get into the playoffs, while Bama still will go and we can see each other hopefully a second time. But that'll do it for us on the crossover edition of Locked On Bama, Locked On Sooners. Make sure you check them out. Thanks for listening to both of our shows. Subscribe to each show wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And thank you for making us the #1 podcast network out there. So for Jimmy, for John, I am Jay. We will see you all, in Tuscaloosa. Boomer.
Sooner.
Roll time.
Jimmy, you got to give me it.
Roll time.